Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be here with Sandra Boston in her home.
Mm-hmm.
And we are interviewing Sandra today as part of a series of interviews that go along with the ECHO project at the Lava here in Greenfield. And the ECHO project really is about documenting the history of the community. And this is a wonderful part of it because, as you and I know, all three of us know, that much of our lives have been involved in the last 15 years in Greening Greenfield. So we're so glad to have Sandra Boston here to be interviewed, and we want to plumb your depths as to how you remember the early activities of Greening Greenfield, starting, well, my own information. I moved to Greenfield and then I became involved. So I only know some of the story, and so I'm very glad to be able to interview you about other parts of the story. Can you tell me what drew you to becoming part of Greening Greenfield, and how did you start being involved?
I guess I would have jumped on any bandwagon that had to do with the environment, beginning in 1970 with the first Earth Day. You know, I'm fond of my memory that one of the things I got from that day was you don't have to flush the toilet every time you use it. Well, how many flushes have I saved since 1970? Just for the one tiny little thing that I can do that's looking at resources that have to be mined, have to be channeled into our houses. We have the luxury of a faucet or flush, and just beginning to see my relationship to the earth, air, fire, and water. And I'm just so grateful for that memory of the first Earth Day. It shaped my future as a consciousness, I want to be on that team. No. I want to be contributing in that way of respect and care for the earth. And so when I heard that there was something called the environmental, it was an energy, what was it called?
The Greening Greenfield Energy Committee?
No, this was met in the energy park at a picnic table, and it had Sally Pick there and people from, I guess she was Montague, but there were people from Ashfield and from Sunderland and Deerfield. We were all meeting together.
That was at the origins of the energy park, the planning of the energy park, and Greenfield Energy Committee came right out of the accomplishment of that.
Well,
that
but
park.
it wasn't just the energy park, because the other people from the other towns were wanting to form energy committees or environmental committees. Okay. It wasn't energy; it was environment.
Cool.
As a local, but we were networking with each other.
That's a good point. Do you remember the year approximately? Or here, think of it this way: was it before the energy park opened or after?
Well, I remember sitting at that picnic table, but that could have been a Nessie building picnic table as opposed to an energy park picnic table. We were in that side yard right next to the building, and that's where we met.
So that's cool. It was a regional effort that you joined.
Yeah, and I remember Tom Murphy being there, being a part of it, and I remember us meeting in the upstairs of the Nessie building.
Yes.
That was our first meeting place, and Tom Murphy was at every meeting. So was Chris Walters, who didn't stay with it very long, but it was like an adventure. It was like, we're going to do something really important, and we're meeting each other because of how much we care about how important this is, and there was nothing else like it going on. And do I remember the year? No. I would think Nancy would remember.
But the picnic bench has come up several times, and the room upstairs in Nessie has come up. So if you put pieces together, it's kind of that time. And Tom Murphy and Sally Pick and Chris Walter are names that come in and out.
Yeah. I'm just flashing now the Democracy School when it met in the upstairs of the Nessie building.
The Democracy School. Tell us more about the Democracy School.
Well, it's mentioned in the history. So it was mentioned, what year? Hosting the Democracy School was 2013. So we were still meeting in the Nessie building.
2013?
2013.
I came here in 2014.
Well,
interesting.
Do you want me to jump ahead to that, or you want to go more? How did we hear about that Democracy School? Thomas Lindsay, Linzey, had started this organization in Pennsylvania called the Environmental Legal Defense Fund, CELDEV. Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. And it was strange that it was called a fund, because what it was a group of lawyers who were helping towns who were threatened by corporate pollution to create laws that were illegal, that gave nature the right to exist, the right to evolve and procreate and occupy space. And everywhere they went, it was a town, usually a small town of some kind, like in Pennsylvania where they're located, where pollution was going to really impact a town.
Okay.
Like a big pig farm was an example, or well, I'm not going to go into all the examples, but they knew that what they were doing was not going to be legal, because in our country the federal trumps state law and state law trumps local law. And so when local passes a law, the state attorney general can come in and say that's illegal. And what Tom Lindsay was doing was saying to the town, we're passing the law anyway, we're going to live by this law, what are you going to do to us? Are you going to demand $100,000 from our town budget? We haven't got it. Are you going to put us all in jail? You're going to eliminate the town government? It's like it was a power struggle. And one of the themes of that training was, you don't lose till you quit. They knew that what they were doing was not going to be approved, and yet they were telling these towns, do it anyway, and enough of you do it. And now it's 10 years later, and it's happening all over the place.
Right. All over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah,
and that CELDEV has worked with Colombia in putting it into their national constitution. They're working with the Amazon River having a right to evolve. Now the state of Colorado is being sued by the Colorado River for its right to evolve and make its way to the sea. It's like this group lit our fire. And what wasn't in the notes was we started a Rights of Nature group in Greenfield, and one of the things we did was we marched in the Franklin County September Fair Parade, dressed as birds, and with big signs of "We have rights to exist too," which I wanted to be sure got into the archives. That we marched in the parade, because we also marched in the parade the year that Peter built an oil derrick. And we put it on a flatbed for the parade, an oil derrick, and on it we attached every form of plastic we could find, from plastic silverware to bottles to bags to toothbrushes, were all hanging on the derrick with a sign, "Goodbye to oil." Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
I mean, we've been in the parade twice, as far as I know. But I think there are other times we've marched for other organizations and things.
Now, is this as Greening Greenfield?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what happened with the rights of nature is that it's because most of us who were part of it were also part of Greening Greenfield, and its mission was just so synonymous with ours that what we decided at one meeting was we'll make rights of nature a project of Greening Greenfield, just like the schools and all the other things we do. And then it was subsumed under Greening Greenfield. And we did do the tap map, which was our first foray into eliminating plastic bottles in Greenfield. And the idea was that we actually went and solicited every merchant on Main Street and on Federal Street, asking the merchants, would you let shoppers refill a water bottle here? And when they said, yes, we will, we had a logo that I helped create. That was my contribution, the logo on the tap map. And it was a logo on one side, and on the other side it was a map of all the stores in Greenfield that had said yes. And then we had this logo in all the store windows. And we called it a tap map.
Very cool.
So that was not mentioned in the website. The other thing that I wanted to elaborate on was in 2008 we had the Turtle Medicine Show.
Yes.
That was, everybody remembers that.
I would love to hear
Tell us
your
about
story.
how that originated. And
I went to the Clearwater Revival Music Festival.
Okay.
And they performed this show at that festival. And I said, I want to bring that to Greenfield. It was a Bread and Puppets, giant puppet
I love
show,
Bread and Puppets.
right? Were you here in 2008?
No, I was not.
And what's missing from the website is, it happened, and yes, we filled the auditorium at the high school. But what I want to add to the story is because I had seen the performance, and I knew that where it ended was the actors simply saying, will humans change in time?
Very prescient.
And I got the inspiration to say, what if we got a group of young people to create a new ending? So first I approached the Bread and Puppet Theater with this idea. How would you feel if you did your performance and then a group of young people added an ending? This is such a good question.
Yeah.
And they were totally amenable. Like, well, creativity in theater, why not, Sure. So I reached out, I think it was to a church group. I can't remember what church it was, but it was a group of sort of 8th graders. And there were maybe 8 of them. They came to my living room one afternoon with a couple of parents, and I told them what the theme of the play was and how it ended, and I invited them to imagine a different ending. Within 15 minutes, this group of 8th graders came up with something that just boggled my mind. And it was just so amazing. And I'm sure you want to know what it was.
Yes, I do.
Aliens arrive from another planet to save the children of Earth because the adults are going to let it die. Kids planted in the audience stand up where they are and say, I'm going to go with them. I want to live. And they leave their seats and they go down the aisle and they get up on the stage with these costumed aliens. Might as well be Halloween. Like 6 of them, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going with them. I want to live. I want to live. And they make their way up to the stage and the aliens say, anybody else want to come? And one of the kids walks to the very edge of the stage and says, but wait a minute, I love the earth. This is my home. I don't want to leave. Why won't you adults do something? And then another kid arrives from the side with these 2 tablets, like the 10 Commandments. I found these tablets. They've got the 10 rules of what you have to do to save the planet. Well, and the kids all look, you know, they're ready to go with the aliens, but then they look and they, what did those rules say? Then they read them out loud. And then another kid goes to the edge of the stage and says, why won't you do this? Who's willing to do this to save the planet? I mean, it was just
remarkable.
Heart-centered, family-centered, young people's vulnerability, their pleading. I don't remember how it ended. I just was so... Lovely. I think it ended with, what will you do?
What was the name of the performance?
The date?
The name.
It was the Turtle Island Medicine Show. Yeah. And it just, I will never forget that experience, because once we got to the point of staging it, I got Court Dorsey to come from Wendell. You know, he's an actor, right? He's a theater guy from many years ago. Mm-hmm. And he stood in the back of that auditorium coaching the kids on how to project their voices out to the audience, you know. I mean, he was like, you're going to succeed at this. And they just joined him. And it was just this thing that kept gaining energy. And I'm sure that a lot of why there were so many parents there at that performance was because the kids were going to be performing.
It was the largest attendance we've ever had for a Greening Greenfield event.
It was I just bow to that part of me that saw that connection and could make that happen, and then add the kids. It's like, wow, that's my greatest contribution to Greening Greenfield.
That lives on in history.
Yeah. And I think, you know, whether they actually ever changed their behavior, it certainly put Greening Greenfield on the map in a new way through theater.
Right.
You know, and then through the parades, and then, you know, when we talked about the 350.org gathering, I actually had sort of spaced that out completely until I read it on the website, and it says organized by Sandra Boston. I'm like,
how could you forget that?
Yeah, really. It just, you know, we filled the high school, and we just got all these groups, kind of like our forum. We got a lot of groups to do workshops. But the thing I remember most is 350.org had asked all local organizations to form the 350 out on a field somewhere and take a picture of it to send to their website.
That was the one in the gymnasium with all the people.
Yes.
And the kids lining up to make 350.org.
That's right. And then we contributed to the national.
Can you tell me a little more about that event as an event?
Well, for? I guess I'm wondering again was Bill McKibben calling for these things, or was it just that I heard that they were happening everywhere and that they wanted people to send pictures?
Yes, it was an invitation.
This was the beginning of the 350.org organization.
Yes.
What year do you have that year on there?
09.
I was in Chicago at that time, and we had Bill McKibben come in on a telecall at that time. They
uh-huh.
weren't zooming it yet.
Yeah, yeah.
But it must have been
Yeah.
350 was just beginning its, or somewhere in the beginning of it, spreading the word about the 350.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, it just tells me, and we've certainly seen this with our forums, anytime we've put out a call, there's just a huge response from this region, from the county, you know, of people who care, and it just makes me more appreciative of living in a place where this consciousness exists. And we've just done a good job of feeding it.
I know you've got your own list there. I have my list too. So go ahead with your list and then I'll
Well, I was marking down just the things that you mentioned, and the homeowner workshops. It was only, I guess, as I read the thing in the third one that we made the windsurfs. But if you look at the window behind you, I have windsurfs in every window of my house. And when I turn my furnace down to 60, when I go to bed at night, when I wake up in the morning, it still says 61 or 63 or 62. It's like I only lose like 4 or 5 degrees at night with the furnace not running for 8 hours. And it's because of the windsurfs.
And we have those windsurfs because you managed to get the materials and the plans.
I mean, it was it was such a, and you know, I taught my 2 sons how to make windsurfs. They didn't go on and make more, but they've all got one.
So to clarify, windsurfs are wooden frames in which a very multi-layered thick plastic is inserted and
on the inside.
On the inside, and these are, you're able to install them and take them back out of the window in the winter to keep the cold air out.
That's right. That's right.
And they're created, I mean, people can make them themselves. They can build a frame, they can attach the plastic. And there were workshops about that. How did you spread the word about windsurfs?
Well, there were 3 workshops, so the word spread. You know, and that.
And you managed getting the materials.
Yeah. Actually,
Peter added some materials, and you added. Together we bought the plastic rolls.
Right. And got the people who knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, that young man, I think Kaufman was mentioned on the website, but there was another young carpenter man who's the one that taught me how to do it. I don't remember his name, but Nancy might.
Yeah.
But no, I was just so motivated by that workshop, like what a difference it would make. And now I'm seeing, you know, that my house holds its heat. When it's 20 degrees out, I only lose 4 degrees in 8 hours. And
that's a wonderful piece of information, because I think of Sandra Boston as the creative guru of Greening Greenfield, but here you were doing something extremely practical and energy related, and getting people to roll up their sleeves and actually make something that they could help to insulate their homes. So it was beyond the theatrical.
Look at that one. That's
I know.
Huge.
I know. Well, it's 2.
Yes.
And that's why it's coming apart in the middle. Because I'm stuffing things into the where it's they bow a little bit over time.
Well, that's because it's so big.
And you know, so I'm having to, and I couldn't stuff any more in there. So
we're looking at Sandra's windsurf that was created, and it's a huge picture-sized window, probably about 5 feet by 5 feet. And she's got 2 windsurfs she created and uses every year.
Yeah.
For
you do need a basement.
Terrarium type. Yeah.
you do need a basement to
right.
store them over the summer and fall. But they're lightweight, and you make little tags that you can easily pull them out on. And the thing is, they are wood framed, and then you wrap the plastic around the frame. But then you've made the frame 1/2 inch shorter in each direction than the actual opening, so that you line the very outside with just a rubber foam kind of thing, and that's what makes it able to like push it in and pull it back out again easily, while also filling that little gap. So they're very manageable. They're not heavy at all, and they make a very big difference.
And you had 3 different workshops.
Yes, yeah, that's what was mentioned on the website. I didn't remember all 3 of them, but there was clearly continuing interest in what they had to offer. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that we're still using our windsurts. Peter makes sure
they don't wear out. I have a couple that have gotten wounded, and I just put clear plastic, tape over the wounds. That's from a cat, and and careless bumping of things. Yeah.
I remember that I don't want to interrupt, but I do remember your involvement with the Second Congregational Church, that you invited us to use, or you said, why don't we use the space at the Second Congo, their community room, and we had planning meetings in that space, and I just can't remember what they were about. Was it about the Turtle Island Medicine Show?
No, it was about Transition Town.
Transition Town.
Yeah.
That's what it was about.
That was another thing that I was very instrumental in bringing to Greenfield. And again, it was another thing that it was an international movement. There was a resource manual published by the original Transition Town people who were from Britain. And we started having Transition Town meetings in the Second Congregational Church, and we had up to 60 people come to these meetings, and we were breaking into small task forces around different interests and interacting with the global network. But it was another example of something that was so parallel to Greening Greenfield's mission that eventually those of us who were in Greening Greenfield just wanted it to be a Greening Greenfield thing and not be running another whole network of interest and concern. And then it just kind of went into the woodwork.
What were the meetings about? What was the purpose when you first started meeting around?
It was all about conservation and consciousness and energy conservation, and
what was inspiring to me was to see where it started in the small communities in England and other European countries. I said, they're doing this. Let's spread
and it
here.
Did spread across the United States.
It did spread,
And what kind of things were they doing?
Well, it was more consciousness-raising things, and
neighborhood gardens, using space in towns that weren't being used for anything else, and why not have a garden there? One of those examples.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's bringing the public and private together. Let's look at the public spaces. And
I probably have the manual somewhere upstairs. I mean, it
was an organization that had goals and purpose and
a manual. Like we never put out a manual. No. It was a tool.
There's still an online manual. It's still going.
It's for communities that didn't have a Greening Greenfield. Transition Town was a new arrival, and it served the same purpose that Greening Greenfield did. It became a focal point for voicing the concerns and what things you can do about it.
And encouraged neighborhood members to work together.
Community.
So it must have been about the same time. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And the other thing that didn't get a big mention on our website, and it was actually, you confused the name of the Four Rivers Energy Extravaganza. It was the Five Rivers Council. It happened at the Four Rivers Charter School.
Okay.
But the Five Rivers Council was a wonderful arising in this community, and it came out of many of us reading Starhawk's novel, The Fifth Sacred Thing.
Okay.
Did you ever read it?
Mm-hmm.
The Fifth Sacred Thing was fiction, but it was about a community in the San Francisco area that was threatened by a community in the Los Angeles area after the fall of civilization globally, not just the United States. So these were surviving communities. And in the South, it was everyone just had a number. They didn't have names, and the state was authoritarian. It was total control of people's lives, including what they ate. And San Francisco was governed by a council represented by earth, air, fire, and water.
Oh, okay.
And nonviolence. And in the story, the South marches on the North.
Yeah.
And the story is about how this community planned to meet the enemy. And they went out as the enemy was approaching. They left their village and went out towards them and interacted with them one by one, saying, "What is your name?" And the person would say, "I don't have a name." It said, "Let's give you a name. What name would you like?" And the next thing it would say is, "You are welcome at our table." I mean, it's such a story of power and transformation. And Randy Keeler was particularly the point person for saying, we could have a Five Rivers Council. We could listen to earth, air, fire, and water. And we called for a Five Rivers Council to form. We got Dan Brown to do a logo for us. He actually did the logo for Greening Greenfield.
Oh, really?
Dan Brown. He was an artist in town. And he's the one who did our tower with the logo with the Greening Greenfield on it. Well, we went to him again. That was me, because I got him to do that one. I got him to do this one, and he did us a logo. We had T-shirts, Five Rivers Council.
I still have them. Yeah.
We had this event at Four Rivers Charter, and 200 people came.
I have to tell you, this is the first time I've heard of this. So when was this?
Let's see, in 2009.
Okay.
Wow, all of this. The 350 celebration was in 2009, and the Five Rivers weekend. 2009.
Well, I'm going by the website. That's when it was mentioned on the website, because I would have forgotten the years as well.
Yeah.
But we filled that school with workshops. There were 200 people there.
So it was the council was created and had workshops, like a forum.
Yeah.
A pre-forum, because forums I don't think started, did we say? 2010 when the forum started, in any case.
Yeah.
So again, the council had its own identity.
Yeah.
It had its own goals.
Yeah.
And it was subsumed.
It had an organizing committee of like about 8 of us who met in my living room.
How did it connect to Greening Greenfield?
It was not initially connected to Greening Greenfield.
Right.
It was more that those of us on Greening Greenfield were involved in the organizing of it. And it had its own organizing committee that met in my living room. And we lasted for about 2 years.
Okay.
Because everybody was already involved in something. They didn't need another way to be involved. But it was if we call them, they come, right? It's the same thing with Transition Town and with our forums.
Yes.
Oh, we're getting together. Okay, everybody comes. But this was very, I remember we had a parade where people were dressed up as earth, air, fire, and water. I had a mask that I was earth, and I had this plaster mask, and I had a headdress that was all grapes and vines and leaves and whatnot hanging all the way down. And we went out and we just paraded together.
And I think I remember that we made an effort to include workshops for the junior high and high school.
Yes. Yeah.
At the school, to be part of it. At this Four Rivers Charter School.
Yeah. That was it was just such a creative time. We were so hopeful. I'd be very surprised at having the same enthusiasm today for the playfulness of where we were 10 years ago.
If I may, what I see is that your presence on Greening Greenfield has been one of amazing creativity, but also a global view where you found other organizations around the world that were addressing the very issues that Greening Greenfield was engaged in, and you brought that to Greening Greenfield and to the community here as a creative thinker, but theatrical in a way that engaged people in a really educational effort. And this was all a consciousness raising period of time, which is now so much consciousness has been raised, not only by creative people, but by the reality of what we're experiencing now, that the playfulness can only be sustained at a level that can give you, try to find personal hope, because it's getting to be so dire in so many parts of the world. So this is what I see you've brought to Greening Greenfield, is this broad thinking, but my vocabulary doesn't quite meet the passion that I hear in your voice
focus on the arts.
When you talk about the arts.
Yeah. Focus on the arts as a means of organizing. I think that is one of my main contributions. And again, these weren't Greening Greenfield projects, but the bee crosswalk.
Oh yes.
I did that. I simply heard about the Cultural Council grants and applied for one. And this is the same for the mural on the co-op.
Oh,
that was the second time I just applied for a grant, got it, did a contest, had submissions, got 5 or 6 people together to be a committee to choose, and now the Second Congregational Church has taken over the bee crosswalk, because it has to be repainted every year, and I did it for like 4 years, and now they've taken over, keeping it going. And the one on the co-op wall, Praise the Hands That Feed Us, is just such a magnificent mural. And Emily Gopin, who we gave the commission to, her response was, well, anybody who wants to help paint is welcome. So 13 people helped paint that mural in my driveway, so we could put it in the garage when it rained. It's 9 4x8 panels, and she, conceived the whole thing, but we all helped, enlarge it and paint it, and I got friends who were real artists to come down from Vermont and paint the butterfly and the hawk and the rabbit, and the monarch butterfly to me is the highlight of the whole mural, and it's just so beautiful. But I love that, and I think Greening Greenfield is named they named the organizations who contributed to it on the bottom of the mural, and so, I'm not quite sure how that connection came about.
The arts, your connection to the arts, and to bring people together to make something beautiful that helps to make the earth beautiful.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I'll bring up a little bit that I would like to just add, is the other big mural project across the street at Veterans Mall. That needed repainting desperately. And who was going to take that on? How could that be done? And I do remember that it was a matter of getting equipment in there, the ladder equipment,
scaffolding,
and not just the scaffolding, but we got
elevators
to take the painters up, and recruited people from all over town who had painted originally, were getting older and who couldn't do ladders anymore.
Yeah.
But that was another mural that I think the energy to make sure that we maintained that mural brought out a lot of good people.
Yeah, Becky Tippins was at the center of that organizing.
She was, yes.
But Nancy, what's her name? The artist. She was on the elevators. She was there every day.
Bear? No, not Bear.
No,
Nancy.
No.
Oh.
No, not Buchanan. No, who? What is her name?
I know.
Anyway, she's
was
a very well-known local artist, and she was there every day.
She displays in Shelburne Falls. And all that.
I was there almost every day, climbing on the scaffolding with a bucket of paint. I didn't get on the elevator. But oh my God, that was incredible. So let me see if there's anything else I noticed that was missing. The Democracy School, the crosswalks, low carbon diet. Boy, that was in 2007. That was one of our very first projects.
Do you remember being involved in that?
Well, I remember participating. I don't remember necessarily organizing it, but this was like the beginning, low carbon diet. It was a manual from some national organization that we were just simply implementing in Greenfield as a study group. And
we had neighborhood study groups.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing that, but I don't remember organizing it necessarily. Let's see if anything else. The workshops at the Green Fair. I did one year because I was a cancer survivor, and I had gone to Hippocrates Health Institute for 2 weeks, and it had changed my life. I just became so conscious of how important food is to our health, and so the fact that you can create protein right in your kitchen by growing sprouts from seeds and growing wheatgrass with grow lights in your basement, and that wheatgrass has 96 of the 115 elements in the periodic chart in it. So it's this powerhouse of all the tools your body with its inimitable wisdom need to do its healing work. Well, here's all your toolbox. Here, help yourself, whatever you need. We don't know exactly what you need or when you need it, but here, on a daily basis, are 96 of the elements. Help yourself. So I did workshops at the Green Fair on how to grow sprouts and wheatgrass. I think I did it 2 years. So that's another.
So the Green Fair was held by what organization organized that?
I think it was a business organization.
Yeah, it was the Greenfield. Yeah.
Was that up at the fairgrounds?
Yeah.
And that's where we had what we called the eco workshops,
yes.
And we brought different people
the
for
eco workshops.
The the food would be one and energy was the other. What's the broader category of food and environmental ishes other than energy issues.
Right,
they were split into two groups, and people came in, and that was held at least 2 years, just when I arrived.
Yeah.
So it would have been 15 and 16, but I don't remember them after that.
Yeah. No, I think COVID sort of shot all that down, and it was a wonderful event in that all the businesses were there too, selling their hot tubs and their windows and their showers and whatnot. But
home improvement.
Yeah.
Plus the actions that we
all
recommended.
the energy groups were there, and the solar store was there with their electric car that everybody could go and look at and touch.
I remember it was up at the fairgrounds for 2 years right after I came, and then it went to the technical school.
Yeah.
And that's where they had the energy, the all electric cars on display.
And you got to ride in them.
I got to ride in one of the
fully electric.
Fully electric. What's the big guy?
Tesla.
Tesla.
Yes, one of the first on the road. It was quite an amazing thing, and I remember the character of it was changing. It was becoming more commercial. And those were the last workshops I think we gave. We might have given a second year at the technical school.
There was one out Bernardston Road.
Uh-huh.
Past some garage or something, you turn right and go up a hill.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
What was that?
But another energy fair.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Up in the industrial complex, or?
Well, not off of Adams Road. No,
Oh, okay.
It was up Bernardston Road.
It was.
Love Hill is that
was
big.
that held at the hockey center? It's that big white inflated roof.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was like, oh shoot.
That you can see from 91.
I've never seen that.
Oh, you haven't seen? Oh, you didn't know you were seeing it, but it's visible from 91. And
so that's another energy fair. So
yes.
Greenfield is really.
We held it there because the fairground wasn't able to host us.
And the other thing that didn't get mentioned is the time capsule.
Oh, you're right.
There's a time capsule buried on the town common.
Yeah, I remember mention of that. Where is it buried? When was it buried?
Oh, you will have to find it, right? It says treasure hunt.
Well, I always intended. I even have.
Oh, wait a minute. We buried another one. I remember bringing a shovel or something.
Yeah, we got permission, and I actually made a plaque about it and gave it to the mayor. What's his name?
Martin.
Yeah, I gave it to him, hoping he would hang it somewhere in town hall so future generations would know there's a time capsule that Greening Greenfield put together. And
so there's one at the town common, and there's one at the fairground too?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Just the town common.
Okay.
And we got different organizations from town to put things in it, and
I think I remember where it is.
And what was
I know
the
exactly
thrust
where
of
it
that?
is.
I can picture where we put it too. It's at the
I even
south
went to the
end.
gravestone people down on Deerfield Street and asked them if they would donate carving, and they said they would. And I was going to get a stone from Goshen Stone because I have a friend who owns Goshen Stone, and talk to him about donating a stone, but then I just
What was the overall aim of the time capsule? Do you remember the year it was put in and what you were trying to keep?
I know that it was going to be for 2065 for people 50 years from now. So it must have been.
It was a 50-year.
So 2015.
Wow.
To let the people who would be really getting hit by the consequences of our choice, for them to know how hard we worked. What all the things we were doing in 2015 to mitigate what was going to happen to them.
I was very forward thinking.
That was the purpose of it, was to say, instead of saying, why didn't you people do anything, to say to them, these are all the ways we were paying attention and doing our best, and
Good.
Excellent.
And we're recognizing the consequences to you.
Yeah.
And so we should look and see whatever happened to that plaque, and we should get a stone.
2 mayors later, no, 1 mayor later.
Yeah, we could still get a stone and put it where it is,
I think it's a good idea.
It's a secret now, right? I mean, it's not visible.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I had a rectangular thing covered with pavement.
Yes.
Cement, stone, little tiny stones. I had it marked off, but now grass has grown up, and it's down near the cannon. It's at that end of.
It's the south end of the.
Yeah, right by the sidewalk that people walk across.
I remember. I remember.
So that's a thing that's going to die with Sandra Boston if we don't do anything more with it. But it was interesting that they just opened a time capsule when they took down the fire station. Somebody had thought to do that. So the fact that we did it, we did it, matters. But it's not on the website, so.
Well, we'll be correcting a lot of things on the website.
Yeah, and be sure and put the tap map in, because
the tap map.
The tap map. It was project of the Rights of Nature group, but as Greening Greenfield?
Well, out of the Rights of Nature group grew the reusable bags project as well, and the tap, because there were 3 items on that petition for the ordinance. There was the plastic bottles, the one-time plastic bags, and styrofoam takeout containers.
Oh, right.
And the 3 things. So the tap map, I remember creating that map and putting it on the computer and finding the stores that to mark on that map for that effort.
Oh, and the other thing that we haven't mentioned is the water protectors.
Oh, there you go.
That wasn't on the website.
What would you like to say about that?
Well, I found the logo. We got, of course, the term water protectors from the Native Americans fighting the Keystone Pipeline out in North Dakota. Yeah, just that name was such an inspiration to us. So, but I think we were inspired by the Greenfield cleanup and being part of the river cleanup.
That's right.
And wanting to, instead of no trespassing signs or don't litter, we wanted to invite people to be a water protector.
Yes.
And we even made the effort to put half the sign in Spanish, just because we know that people from Holyoke are the ones coming up to the Green River, since they can't use the swimming pool anymore and they can't use the free one at the dam. They're going up the river. And so, we had some pretty sad stories of, I think we made like 12 of these signs, and we got the tech school students to cut out the shape with the frog.
Yes.
And
I have photos of those signs, and you put them out.
We painted them here in my loft again. And the students had mounted them on the metal what do you call them? Stems. So they were very well put together, and we painted them and shellacked them, and then we put them around. And I think there is still one down where the trailer park used to be. The 2 we put up at the covered bridge got vandalized. Wendy Goodman put one up by her driveway going into the Green River area.
Yeah.
And I still have one under my loft that we kind of got discouraged about how they were being vandalized. So
yes,
it's not a happy story, but the frog is wonderful.
Yes.
Happy frog.
I'm glad you have one.
Yeah, I do.
We know where to go to get that one.
Right, you do. So, I remember giving one to Emily Green. There was someplace she was going to put one.
Yeah,
sure she did.
But anyway, that was not on the website, the water protectors.
No. Would you say that was really part of, that was based on the Greening Greenfield work in the community? Was that was your inspiration?
Yeah, I can't really, I think it should be mentioned as an action in the community.
That's right.
It wasn't, I didn't necessarily do it as Greening Greenfield. I think it might have been Rights of Nature.
Okay.
But Rights of Nature was part of Greening Greenfield, so I would say it was a project of Greening Greenfield.
Very good, very good. Glad you said.
Why not help ourselves, right?
Which is what Greening Greenfield appears to have been all along, was a incubator for projects, whatever the name. The people who come to the meetings carry on. They go. The philosophy is get 1 or 2 people, and you've got a project, and you have whatever support you need from Greening Greenfield. So you get bodies from Greening Greenfield, and you get ideas, and you get monetary support.
And then we get to put it on our website. Why not?
Yes.
Who cares?
Yes.
You know?
Well, it invites, it becomes at least a place to put it.
And it becomes the history of the town.
Yes, exactly, which is what this is about.
Yeah. So I think that's all I can, from looking at the history, what I remember.
Well, that's quite a legacy, Sandra. I appreciate you doing your homework and thinking about it and looking to see what was missing, because that is so valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to thank you. I don't have any further questions. I think we went a lot of different directions.
I had another piece, and then it went, as we talked, I lost it. But so there were also many other things, like the natural gas leaks campaign, the skate park for Greenfield. But I think what you've done, Sandra, is you've shown how your inspiration, your artistic eye, really helped with fleshing out the programs that we wanted to start. And I just want to say, we still have, right next to our little shed in the back, is the big piece of plywood that you had us walk with in the Franklin County Parade with the trash. Remember the collected trash that we had, and people were carrying, they were dressed in trash.
Oh, that was the oil derrick.
Oh, the oil derrick. Remind me about the oil derrick. That was an image that we had for the Franklin County Fair Parade.
The plywood might have been on the float with the oil derrick. It might have told people why we had the derrick.
Yeah. You want to see it? Come on, see it. But it's been a useful piece of plywood for a long time.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
The oil derrick. Oh my God. Do we have photos of that?
You should. That would certainly be worth putting on the website.
Okay, that's never seen any.
I'll have to plumb the depths. But thank you so much, Sandra. You put a lot more into the picture.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a great picture.